The biggest fight of the year plays out July 29th. Not just the biggest fight of the year, the biggest fight we've seen in many years. Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford for all the marbles at 147 pounds. For me, Tony, one of the biggest fights we've seen, I think, in the last 15, 20 years will play out.
Yeah, I think I make you correct on that. I think this is the biggest fight we've seen since Manny Pacquiao got him with Floyd Mayweather.
Oh, good shout.
So it's absolutely huge. Yeah, it's one of them divisions that always lights up and always creates a star. But the fact of Terence Crawford going through the divisions and now coming up against such a formidable force, I mean, it takes you back to the likes of Sugar Ray Leonard, the way he's going through the welterweight divisions and then the light middleweights and then finally arriving at the middleweight division facing Marvin Hagler. It kind of feels like that kind of crossroads fight. And I just think once he gets in with Errol Spence, I think this is going to be the first time he's in with a big, dangerous welterweight who does not stop, who does keep coming, and is also, I don't think he's as athletically gifted as Crawford, and I don't think he's as skillful yet, but I do think he's stronger than Terence Crawford, and I do think that he is more durable, believe it or not.
Interesting.
I'm not sure with the durable shout though, because we've seen him hurt against Ugas, and is the writing on the wall a little bit? I don't know, but for me, I mean, I can't look past Terence Crawford, Addy.
Before we start and give predictions, is it a 50-50 scrap? Like, I think it's 50-50. I think you've got Terence Crawford, who is no worse than top 3 pound for pound in the world, as you say, undefeated, undisputed at 140. And you've got Errol Spence, who, for me, makes my top 6 pound for pound.
Yes.
Like, this is quite rare that we've got 2 unbeaten guys, both pound for pounders. And I think that's what makes it genuinely 50-50. You just broke it down. Errol Spence has his ticks, and Terence Crawford's got his ticks.
They both have their attributes, and they're both really good at what they do. Like I said before, Errol Spence is, in my opinion, the modern-day Marvin Hagler. He walks you down, he bullies you, he roughs you up, he takes a shot really well. His defence is pretty much on point.
Does that make Terence Crawford Tommy Hearns?
No, because I've never really felt Terence Crawford is that big one-punch hitter where he puts you to sleep. Like Tommy Hearns is one of the pound-for-pound greatest punchers of all time. I mean, I don't rate many above him. I mean, the likes of Julian Jackson, people like that, you know, freaks. That's what I call them, as one-punch hitters. But it'll be interesting to watch. I mean, for Terence Crawford, he's going to have to play the skill game. And I think he's going to have to navigate his way through the first 6. He might find it being a bit much, trying to mix and get roughed up a little bit by Errol Spence. I think we've seen things in the Sean Porter fight that make you think, can he actually deal with it? But then when the question,
Terence?
Yes, but when the questions were asked of him, Addy, in the Sean Porter fight,
he went through the gears so quick. I remember that bit on the stall where he's speaking to people. I think
I'm
people
behind.
Inside. Am I behind? What? Like, he's actually taken back by it. Really? 30 seconds later, he put Sean Porter down.
And it was just, it shows you what he can do when he flicks a switch. He's unbelievable. He's a proper diligent professional. When we were shooting Creed 3, I was living in the hotel with him, and he was down there every single morning. Every single. And this wasn't a boy. I was down in the gym to try and get in some kind of shape because I just come back off a holiday. I was trying to lose serious weight because I was going on camera. He was just in the gym for the sake of being in the gym. He lives in the gym, so he's a thoroughbred, diligent professional, and I think we're being a bit unfair by where we're ranking them in the pound-for-pound rankings, because I think these boys are both in the top 5.
It's interesting. Who do you think's the best of the two? Like, forget breaking it down, but just who's the best? Who's the best, Errol or Terence?
Terence Crawford.
Terence Crawford.
I just think he has more strings to his bow. That's the only difference. I mean, I really love Errol Spence. I think he's an absolutely brilliant fighter, and I'm not detracting from him in any way. I just think Terence Crawford does more stuff. Yeah. And he's capable of more things in the boxing ring. Like front foot, back foot, he's got it all.
Switch hitting, everything.
He's got everything. And pound for pound carries a little bit more of a pop than Errol Spence. But saying that, at the welterweight division, I'm not sure he has the same kind of power, the same kind of strength as someone like Errol Spence. We've seen what Errol Spence done to Kell Brook.
Yeah, it's been frightening. Errol Spence has steamrolled fighters, but I think we saw against Danny Garcia and Ugas, as you mentioned, that he can come unstuck soon. You likened Errol Spence to Marvin Hagler.
Yes.
Who do you liken Terence Crawford to then? Like fighter, present or past? Who does he remind you of?
It's because you never get the same Terence Crawford twice. He's always, in every fight, he's different. I mean, he's been around forever. You look at him in the face and the likes of Ricky Burns many years ago.
He says that was his best win, by the way. He said recently that Ricky Burns' fight, which was 9 years ago, was his best win.
Wow.
He says that was his best win.
the Terence Crawford you watch that night in Scotland is not the Terence Crawford we've seen now.
Yeah, completely different.
He's evolved and he's gone to new levels. So he might think that's his best performance, but I've seen him so many times, and he's a ruthless fighter. You know, facing the likes of Amir, Kell Brook, and the jobs that they do on them is just phenomenal. Yes, okay, both fighters are at the tail end of their careers, but ultimately it's super impressive what he does.
Does he not need then? Look, there was a sit down with Errol and Terence where they had to kind of rate each other's attributes. Yeah, and I think they asked a question about resume to both. I think Terence gave Errol quite high, I think 8 out of 10. Errol said Terence's resume was 0.5. And we laugh about it, but you look at the resume, and you just said it there. Kell Brook at the end of his career, Amir Khan at the end of his career, Sean Porter retired after as well. Terence needs this, doesn't he? He needs that big name on the resume.
He does, Addy, but you'd also have to add, after you've just said that, who made them retire?
Yeah.
Because they weren't retired. They weren't retiring until he faced them.
It's a good shout, isn't it?
So it's he drove you to retirement.
Yeah.
He's exceptional at what he does. Do not ever underestimate him. Like I say, Ricky Burns was in his pomp, in his prime.
Yeah, and he went to Scotland to beat Ricky Burns up as well.
And if you remember, that was not long after the Beltram fight.
Yep.
When everyone, all the hand, and he just went up there and just done an absolute dismount.
As you know, you've got to do it away from home. How important is it for boxing, this fight? We've obviously seen Ryan Garcia Tank do crazy numbers. People like to say boxing's in this weird kind of space where we're making big fights, they're not making big fights. This one's been made, and when it was made, the boxing world went crazy. How important that they produce on the night.
Fantastic. It lets you know that the big fights can be made regardless. I think all the credit for making this fight should go to Terence Crawford. I'm not going to lie. Purely for the fact of this guy left his promoter, left himself without a deal with anyone to make this fight happen. Now, I'm not going to discredit Errol Spence completely, because Errol Spence went and met Terence Crawford, sat down with him, and they thrashed out a deal between themselves. He's then gone to Al Heyman and said, this fight has to happen. I do not want to fight anyone else. So I give them both enormous amounts of credit. The only reason I slightly edged to giving Terence Crawford is because he walked away from a promoter, and not just any promoter, one of the bigger promoters in the world. So, and he done that. He took that risk, Addy. And as a world champion who's got to defend the title with no major promoter behind you is a worrying thing, to be honest.
Yeah. Do you ever watch my YouTube channel? Be honest. You can say no. It's all right.
You know me well enough by now. Do I ever watch YouTube, Ad?
No, you don't.
Do I ever watch? I don't even watch myself.
The reason I ask, and the reason I say it is because I've had this picture of the super fight, like the biggest fight that can be made in boxing, and it's wild. But Errol Spence mentioned it the other day. I mentioned it a couple of months ago. If Errol were to win, he's talking about skipping 154 and going into a catchweight fight with Canelo at 163, 164. Is it you? It's good. You're the right person to ask, because you've seen him. When you went to Texas, you saw him walking around. Is he not big enough? You saw him walking around. We've seen Canelo as well.
You know, when I think about it, I'm going to retract that, because Terence is big enough, because Canelo ain't that big.
No, I'm talking Errol.
If
Errol were to win, Errol saying he will skip 154 and go straight to the Canelo super fight and bring Canelo down to 164. Errol's big enough, no? Is he?
Yes, Errol is. I was thinking Terence.
Is that a super fight?
Then when I look, that's mega.
That's mega, isn't it?
That's mega, but then you have to now look at the predicament that Canelo's in. Canelo's obviously now done the deal where he's going.
He's over there. Free fight deal with PBC. He's over there. Who is he going to fight over there?
He's the one thing that the only way that deal makes sense is if he gets in the ring with Benavidez.
Okay.
Latino against Latino.
Ooh.
It's the only way that deal makes sense, because no one is making any money out of that deal unless they fight each other, because then that is huge. I mean, Hispanic against Hispanic, it's massive.
It is.
They draw such big numbers, and the crowds and the atmosphere. I mean, I'd want to be there myself.
I'm calling it. Forget that one. I'm calling it Errol Spence versus Canelo if Errol wins this fight. All right, prediction. Go on. What are you thinking? July 29th. Who wins this? I think the fight of the year. Who are you picking?
I'm interested in what you think first.
Oh, interesting. I'm going Terence Crawford. You know what? I've always gone Terence Crawford just because.
But how?
I think he's a special fighter and he wins it on points. I don't think he stops Errol. Errol's tough. Errol's gritty. I saw Errol get hit with shots by Ugas. Danny Garcia clipped him clean as well. Kell Brook hit him with a few. Kell Brook hit him.
I think Terence Crawford might be getting outworked and then pulls it out the bag.
Stoppage?
I don't know why I think that, but I just think he might be getting out. There was signs in that Sean Porter fight that he's letting an older man outwork him and hustle him. Is that because of the weight, or he's a little bit stronger than he expected, or is it because he feels so relaxed in there? I think he might be having his own way against Spence, but losing rounds.
And then he just decides.
And then he just, very similar to the Sean
goes to the corner.
Then he gets
what?
told,
I'm behind?
Yeah.
1 second.
Just give me a minute. just give me a minute. And then he gets stuck into the Errol Spence. But I do think this could be a fight where you see both on the floor.
Yeah. Wow.
And, you know, I'd hope that it goes a distance so we can see both of them show us how great they both are.
Yeah.
But I just, something tells me there's going to be a stoppage in the fight, and I'm
You're
heading
leaning
towards
to
Terence Crawford. Yeah.
That will be something, right? Terence Crawford stopping Errol Spence. Oh, look, we can't wait for it. It's a big fight. July 29th as well. I'm going Terence. Tony's going Terence. The world, I think the majority of the world's going Terence as well. Should be a cracker.
The world awaits.